thanks for tuning in. It's nice to see you again, or it's nice to be heard, I guess I should say. Welcome back to the next 100. Today, I want to talk about grief. I want to talk about all the loss and all of the sadness and all the grief that we've all been dealing with for the last 3 years because it feels like we're not talking about it. It feels like the pandemic hit and it was pivot, and adapt, and there was so much division in vaccine opinions and this and that, and the last election cycle really destroyed a lot of families, and so there's so much loss, right? I've been thinking about for days how I want to talk about this, and I'm not really sure. All I know is I want to show up authentically, right? And I want to be honest about where I'm at, because I think it's important. I think sometimes we put people on these pedestals and we think just because their business is doing well or they're living in a nice place that like there's no problems, and that's not real. And for me personally, grief has been a real Mickey Flicky, man. Like, it has been tough. Not a day goes by where I don't think about the people in my life who passed away. Will and Sam, two people who were like fathers to me, who really loved me and cared about me. And they both died in a very short period of time, within a couple months of each other. And that sucks. 2020, man. Last year, my mom died. That made it even more difficult because we didn't have a good relationship, because I think my mom resented me in a lot of ways. I think my mom resented me for surviving. My mom did the best she could. She did her level best. Her mom died when she was 16 and her dad died when she was 17, and she didn't have it easy. Her only sister, is 12 years older. My mom figured things out, was thrown on her feet, and she figured out how to land, and she married my dad, and I don't know, that's a whole nother conversation. But, they both did the best they could. My dad went to Vietnam within 6 months of them meeting one another and being married, and already had a kid on the way. I mean, life was a very different time, and so I never really held anybody accountable, or that's not even the right word. I never felt any resentment towards anyone in my family, in particular my parents, because I know they did the best they could. And so, but in the last year of her life, she decided to very aggressively take away the very little bit of love that she was able to give me. And the irony of that is that my mom raised me to be very independent and very intelligent. She fed me books as a kid and let me read voraciously and encouraged me when I advanced in different areas, and, probably pushed me a little bit too hard with some of the sports stuff and all that. She also, was using sports as a daycare method. I'm not mad at that. You got 4 kids. You're like, I'm dropping you off at the pool. I mean, my mom used to wake up, man, my mom used to come home. My mom used to work nights as a nurse, and she would come home from working her shift and get all of us out of bed, all 4 of us in our matching homemade bathing suits. Fuck. And drive us to the pool, to the Knights of Columbus, and drop us off. And we'd have swim team practice. And she would go home at like 7 a.m. And she would go home and sleep for 5 hours and then pick us up at noon. And, as a kid, I just remember being hungry all the time. There's a lot of things I remember about that, but I never fully appreciated that my mom was only getting 5 hours of sleep after like working as a nurse and providing for so many people and getting us off to school, and then having 5 hours of sleep, having no time for herself before we came home from school. I mean, my mom really did the best that she could, and she raised us to be super independent. And I moved out at 17, I had my first surgery at 19, and, I managed to land on my feet all the time. And, that was one of the conversations that she had with me one time. She said, I said, I'm really struggling. I really need your help. I really need some guidance. And she said to me, well, and this is after like years of just no real engagement, involvement in my life. And she said to me, well, you always seem so fine on Facebook. And I thought to myself, man, well, yeah, right? Isn't that the rub, right? Like, we all seem fine on LinkedIn. We all seem fine when we're showing up for these things, but are we fine? Right? We're talking about our businesses. We're talking about our numbers. We're talking about, Did you pivot? Did you adapt? Did your business survive? And all those things are great, because if your business survived, that means you kept people employed. No shit. Very proud of the fact that I managed to keep people employed. But like, when do we talk about the hard stuff? We're talking about vaccines, like, friendships are being ended, families being destroyed. We're talking about politics, Fauci, this, that. We're talking about everything under the sun but the incredible loss, And how is that going to manifest? How is that going to manifest in interpersonal relationships in the workforce? How's that going to manifest in relationships with clients? I had a client this year that I had to it was borderline respectfully tell them, like, they were not allowed to speak to me or my staff that way anymore. And I had to remind them that, we're recording for them at 3 a.m. and jumping through hoops. And in the meantime, since we met them, the world came to a complete halt and people have died and we've been struggling. And it's really not okay to talk to anybody that way. And how dare you? And I don't think that we've really addressed what the impact of this is on us and how that impacts how we speak to people, how we speak to vendors, how we speak to clients, how we speak to our employees. I mean, how do we speak to ourselves? Fuck, right? So this isn't a podcast where I have all the answers. Far from it, I took this little marketing class with Simone Soul. She's super badass. I love her. She's very honest and authentic. And she was just talking about showing up as your authentic self. And I thought, well, fuck, my authentic self sometimes is in a lot of pain or super depressed. Am I supposed to show up and record podcasts when I feel like I just want to fucking cry? Yeah, I think so. Because it's real. And I don't think there's a single person listening to this. Hopefully there's more than a single person listening to this. But I don't think I know there's not a single person who's going to listen to this who didn't lose something that really fucking hurt in the last 3 years. Maybe it was your business. Maybe it was your marriage. Maybe it was yourself. Maybe it was a child. Maybe it was a parent. Maybe it was all of those things. And I just think we need to be a little more kind. And I think we focus so much on everything is opening and events are happening again and tickets are being sold and this is happening and the pandemic is over and move. But when do we just sit with each other and say, hey man, you all right? You all right? So I don't know. So this week what I did is I really focused on the people in my life that bring me a lot of joy. And I made a list. So I have these really big windows behind me, as you can see. And my whole living room is nothing but windows, which is awesome. But it means there's no place to hang any artwork or a whiteboard. But what I've learned is that I can put all of my stuff on the window. And then at night, it magically disappears. I don't have a to-do list anymore. It's awesome. Highly recommend. But I made a physical list of the people in my life that really make me happy. And the reason why is because I was listening to the 25-year anniversary of the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. And they were talking about, John Maxwell was talking about your inner and your outer circle. And I just started thinking about who are the people in my life that really just make me feel good and see me, people who see me. And so I wrote a list, right? Because lots of people think they see me, lots of people think they know me, but there's very few people who know. They know when I'm in pain. They know when I'm struggling. Everybody else just thinks I'm funny, which I am, but I'm learning through therapy that's a trauma response. But I think I'm still funny. I hope even after therapy I'm still funny. I don't want to lose that side of me. I think that's one of the genes you get with being an Irish Catholic and just handed down to you. It's this great gift of sarcasm and self-loathing. But yeah, I made this list and I reached out to some of these people and I got to reach out to some of them again, but it just reminded me to be really grateful of my inner circle and to just, we talk a lot about authenticity and marketing and what does that even mean? And it's these long fucking diatribes on LinkedIn with that hook of a sentence. And I don't want to do that, man. I want to just share with you, I just want to share with you what I'm learning, what I'm experiencing, because it's honestly really helpful. It kind of helps me be accountable. I got to get up and look presentable and, get in front of this camera and work on my presentation. And the worst part is I got to listen to these afterwards, which is so painful. Good Lord. Who wants to listen to yourself? Apparently that's how you get better. That's what I tell my clients all the time. So I stopped saying right as much. I don't know if you guys noticed that in the last couple episodes, but poco a poco, as they say here in Costa Rica. So yeah, it's okay to be sad. It's okay. You can be sad in a beautiful place. I do it all the time. And it's okay to be sad in business. It's okay to barely get off the couch, but then show up for that meeting or that sales call or whatever and crush it and hang up and cry. It's okay. I'm going to give you permission to do that. Maybe some of you aren't criers, but, maybe it'd be better if you cried instead of drinking. I don't know. Follow me for more life tips. But, what I've been doing, writing that list, I've been exercising more. I've just been reading. I've been listening to more audiobooks because it's kind of slowed down on that a little bit, which is why I added the book report, right? All of this is just a lesson in, accountability for myself. So I'm really curious to know, what are you guys doing? What are you doing to manage this? Like, if you're a leader in particular, right? Reading the Laws of Leadership, which will be next week's book report, because I got one for today. It just made me realize, man, what a shit job I've been doing of being a leader, man. Talking smack about my clients. Not all of them, because most of them are great, but that one, it really pissed me off. But, I shouldn't be doing that. I mean, I could be better. Am I addressing my staff's, their grief and the time and the things they need? I'm not doing as good of a job of that. So I just want to be transparent. I just want to hold myself accountable, and I want to be authentic. My name is Molly, and I struggle with depression, and I probably will for the rest of my life. And I think that's what gives me a different artistic eye on things. Living in so much pain my whole life, a lot of people, I saw this post on the internet the other day, and it said, for people who live in chronic pain, like me being in chronic pain doesn't negate the pain that you're in. Like, it's not the same. Like, you could be in a lot of pain. It doesn't make it any less because I live with it all the time. Right. But what it did do, living in a lot of pain, is it humbles the shit out of you, and you have no room to feel sorry for yourself, because that's just a losing battle, and that shit gets old anyway, right? Like, oh, poor me. No. What it does is it gives you empathy and makes you feel connected to every person on the planet, which is why sometimes living in a city was really hard for my soul, because it just hurt. It hurt. Because I knew that I was never more than one click away, And I'm still not. None of us are. So yeah. Here it is. On a day that I don't really feel like showing up, I'm showing up. Talking about shit I don't want to talk about. Rest in peace, Mom. Despite your better wishes, I'm here. I'm surviving. I'm thriving. Thanks for showing me it was possible. By not believing. And hey man, maybe next week will be better, but either way, I'm showing up. I'm sharing my thoughts. And I hope that you guys can share with me some of the things that you're doing to kind of combat all these feelings and all these moments. What are you doing? Meditating, reading, working out, cooking good food, hanging out with friends? What are you doing, man? Share that with me. I want to know. I want to know what people are doing. I want to know how people are surviving. I want to talk about it. Not because I have the answer. Good Lord, no. Half of my answers involve Jameson, so you shouldn't listen to me. Or maybe you should sometimes. But I want to know, what are you doing? What are you doing? Share it with me, man. And yeah, until the next one, be easy on yourself. I always say be excellent to each other, but maybe this week just be excellent to yourself. Whatever that means. All right, it is time for the book report. Boop, boop. Read a book. All right, shout out to Bomani Arma. We need to tag him in this one for sure. But all right, I'm getting off track. Classic me. But this week's book is called Bittersweet. And what I really liked about this book is that I feel like it really spoke to me in a lot of ways, because I have always struggled with depression, right? That's what this whole episode is about. I mean, first time I was, sent off to deal with my feelings, I was in 4th grade. I mean, we'll let my therapist do the heavy lifting on that one. But I have just always had this sadness inside me as long as I can remember. Since I was a kid, it was literally the first thing I can recognize. It's like Dexter's Dark Passenger. Like I ain't killing nobody. Don't call the cops on me, fuck. But it's there, man. It's just always been there. But I've always felt like that's what gives me this the lens in which like I see things, and the beauty I see in the world, and the humanity and the love that I see in people, and I'm grateful for that. And I don't want to take that away, even though that means that there's some real bad valleys, man. There are some valleys, right? But it also, there's some summits, and I get to see beautiful things. And I think this book does a really excellent job of kind of summarizing all of that in a much more succinct way. It's kind of like enjoying listening to sad music and embracing that part. And I think where, this whole, there's always some keyword and some buzzword, toxic positivity, right? But there's some truth to that, man. Like, you're not supposed to be happy all the time. That shit would be weird, man. You can't be happy all the time. Who's happy all the time? Nobody's happy all the time. It's not real. So, you got to have sadness to have happiness. You got to have highs to have lows. And I think we need to embrace that a little bit more. And, she talks a lot about the relationship that she has with her mom. And I just thought it was like really... it's just really a beautiful book, and it helped me kind of understand myself a little bit better. And so if you're looking for a book, it's not super business development. I know it's 2 weeks in a row. I know, but everything can't be about learning. Okay, maybe you need to learn about ourselves first. But I think this is a good book. I definitely recommend it. Really well produced, great audio, nice voice. 5 out of 5. Give it a run, especially if you're feeling a little lost and a little bit, full of grief and not really sure how to express yourself. I feel like that might be a good place to start. So link is in the description. Check it out. And until next week, be excellent to yourself. Thank you for tuning in to The Next 100, sponsored by Heartcast Media. We are a digital media creative agency focusing on branding, marketing, strategy, and amplification. From personal branding to podcasting, we've got you covered. And to continue this conversation, join me on Instagram. My personal account is Molly D. Ruland, and of course, you can also find us at Heartcast Media. That's where the really good stuff is going down. So join me there. Let's continue the conversation. And until next week, have a good one.
Produced by Heartcast Media.